My name is Dr. Heather Woodruff. I'm an associate at Hagyard Equine Medical Institute in Lexington, Kentucky, and I've been here for a little over 2 years. The goals of stretching your horse are to prevent an acute injury while you're riding. So you want to make sure that they're ready for the level of activity that you're going to do during that specific exercise time. You can do stretching to improve range of motion, especially when you have an unfit horse that you're trying to bring back into a level of competition, or if you have a young horse that you're just trying to teach where to move its body in an appropriate way. Range of motion is great for neck and back exercises to help maintain an appropriate level of fitness for jumping or dressage or whatever sort of competition you're doing. You always want to be aware, if your horse is coming back from an injury, about specific stretches that can aggravate an old injury. So if it's got a neck issue, you might not want to necessarily do long and low or really hard stretches to the left or the right. When they're coming back from an injury, everything should always be very easy on them. A lot of walking until they've come back to being an athlete, a fit athlete again. And then once they're more fit to start trotting and cantering, that's when you can start putting back in some of the harder stretches. You want to make sure that they don't get any muscle cramps from the cold weather. Even if you're in an indoor arena that seems like it's warm to you because you've been working and riding, you need to make sure that their muscles are cooled down. So when you are starting your exercising in the cold weather, you want to make sure that a lot of your stretches are done at the walk, and you can do a lot of walking in the initial part of your exercising and doing a lot of bending up and down and left and right. A lot of leg yielding lateral movement is really good in the cold weather, just to help get those muscles warm before you start doing your trotting and cantering and jumping, if that's what you're doing. There's many different ways to stretch. You can do stretches on the ground. Most people know we call them our carrot stretches, and or peppermint stretches, depending on what your horse's favorite treats are. And that is just standing to the side of the horse and having them move their neck from straight forward to the left without moving their body. So they're just moving their neck. And then you can go to the other side and have them just move their neck to the right. And you can bring them all the way back. Most horses can touch their rib cage. Again, if they're coming off an injury, you don't want them to really start cranking their neck from side to side, but it's definitely good to start doing that, and that's something you can do on the ground every day. Some people will put a carrot or a peppermint down at their knees, and that way they can stretch out their top line and their necks down. That's a great one to do on the ground. And then when you're riding, it's always great to do, again, similar things at the walk and even at the trot, if your horse is fit enough to do it. Just a lot of moving from side to side, and not necessarily just pulling their head with your hands, but using your legs in your seat to move their body. And the lateral movements is just when they move off your leg to the left or to the right, and that's really good for their back muscles, and it helps them come through the reins and the bit better if they're more in tune to your aids. So it even helps overall riding, not just a fitness level. You don't want to stretch anything really aggressively, and if your horse doesn't want to stretch, and you make him, he can get hurt. So you don't want to ever force them to stretch if they're not ready. If they're unfit, you've just pulled them out of the field from the winter, if they get the winter off, or they're coming off an injury, or they're young and they're just starting. You don't want to force them to stretch, because you can either hurt them or you can turn them into a sour horse if you're forcing them to do something they're not ready for. So you don't want to ever force a stretch. That's why the carrot stretches or peppermint stretches are great, because they want to do it because they're going to get a cookie. So it's always, you never want to push them to do something that they're not ready for. You don't want to also let them get away with just misbehaving. So if you know your horse, you can kind of tell if, they don't want to bend their neck because they're hurting or they're just being naughty. So that comes into how well you know your horse, or your trainer knows your horse. Your trainer should know you and your horse and what the ability levels of both you and your horse are, and they can recommend good stretches that you can do at home if you're not at a barn. And your veterinarian, someone who you use commonly, who knows your horse and their ability, and they'll also know the fitness level and the musculature, what you might specifically need to work on, whether or not it's top line or hind end, and they can generally recommend what you should do. Also online, there's great resources. AAP, which is the American Association of Equine Practitioners, has resources for horse owners, and local chapters of different organizations should have similar things.